Why does the mind cling when life itself is a flow? The contradiction of seeking stillness in a world of motion. There are moments of stillness in the deep of night, when the world outside is quiet, but your inner world is not. Your mind is a turbulent river of thoughts. What if this path is wrong? What if I am not strong enough for what's to come? What if I lose what I hold most dear? This quiet hum of unease is a current that runs through many of our lives. It shows up not only in the face of great challenges, but in the smallest of moments. An unanswered text, a sudden shift in tone, a silence that stretches a moment too long. Any of these can stir the waters. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to how deeply you connect, how much you care. And beneath it all lies a fundamental human fear of losing what gives our lives meaning. And still, we understand on a certain level that all things move. Nothing is permanent. It's a truth we have known since childhood. People enter our journey and people leave. Our bodies transform. The seasons of our relationships turn. But there exists a great canyon between the intellectual knowing of this truth and the deep feeling of its reality. This is the great paradox. You see that life is a flowing river, yet you try to build a dam in it. And in this resistance, you find struggle, not from the flow of the river itself, but from the exhausting effort of trying to stop it. An ancient teaching shares a profound insight. My journey has been filled with countless storms, yet most of them raged only in my own mind. Your mind creates these storms in an attempt to prepare you, to protect you. This pattern is woven deep within us. For our ancestors, constant vigilance toward a coming danger was a key to survival. That very same internal alarm now rings for a critical email or a tense conversation, treating them with the same life or death gravity. But instead of shielding us, this constant state of alert simply exhausts us. This inner turbulence pulls your awareness away from the present moment. It robs the richness from what is directly in front of you. The more you attempt to architect every outcome and control every variable, the more profound your feeling of imbalance becomes. Why? Because absolute control has never been within our reach. You treat the great unknown not as a fundamental condition of existence, but as a problem to be solved. In truth, it is the very space in which we must learn to walk. This journey is a shared one. The student, the parent, the leader, the elder, we all carry this unease, though it wears different faces. Even those who deeply understand the flowing nature of life find it difficult to simply release their grip. The challenge, you see, is not that the river of life is always moving. The challenge is in the way we relate to its current. And this is where a path of wisdom begins, not by turning away from the river, but by learning to navigate it with a clearer mind and a steadier heart. The wise have long observed that this internal friction arises not just from events themselves, but from the tightness of our grasp upon them. When you fight against the current of change, you endure the struggle twice over. First, from the change itself, and second, from your refusal to move with it. In what follows, we will explore the roots of this clinging and how you might begin to hold your life more lightly, to flow with it even as its course forever shifts. The unfolding river, embracing the nature of a changing world, from a place of deep awareness, we find that change is not just an occasional event. It is the very fabric of reality itself. Not a single thing is ever truly static, not even for a half second. Your own body is in constant renewal. Your relationships evolve. Your emotions are like clouds that form and then dissipate. Ancient wisdom has long stated this clearly. All created things are in motion. They come into being and they pass away. To witness this with clarity is to find the path away from inner turmoil. Millennia before our sciences could prove it, the great sages already saw this: the universe is a dance. Everything that is assembled will one day return to its elements. Everything that is born will one day dissolve back into the whole. But if this constant flow is the most natural thing, why does it create such turbulence within us? The insight offered is both simple and profound. You resist this flow because, in your heart, you live as if it were not true. You may acknowledge it with your mind, but your daily actions speak a different truth. You live as if those you love are permanent fixtures. You strive for success as if, once achieved, it can be frozen in time. This illusion, born from a clouded perception, is deeply rooted in your view of the world. And when the river of life shifts its course, as it must, you feel the strain, not from the movement itself, but from your own resistance to that movement. This resistance is the root of attachment, the mind's clenching that whispers, "You must not lose this. This defines you. This must remain." But the harder you clench, the more unsettled you become. A new line on your face, an opportunity missed, a farewell spoken before you were ready. Each of these small shifts can feel like a deep wound because you were expecting the ground beneath you to be solid rock. But it is not. It is a flowing river. One of the oldest teachings on this matter says, "From deep wanting comes sorrow. From deep wanting comes fear. For the one who is free from this wanting, there is no sorrow. So from where could fear arise?" This points to the very heart of dukkha, which is not merely suffering, but the deep sense of dissatisfaction that comes from seeking permanent shelter in things that are, by their nature, impermanent shelters. Not all of life is pain, but all of life is fragile. Even a moment of profound joy becomes tinged with bitterness when you try to grasp it, to prevent it from passing. A flower in full bloom is a thing of beauty, but it too will wilt. If your peace depends on its eternal bloom, you are destined for grief when its petals fall. This feeling is amplified by how you perceive your own being. You tend to believe there is a fixed, solid me at the center of your experiences. My story, my reputation, my journey. Yet, the great traditions of wisdom speak of anatta, the truth of no fixed self. What you call is not a statue, but a flowing stream of ever-changing conditions, your thoughts, your moods, your memories, the very cells of your body. When life's currents do not match the imagined story of that self, you feel that your very being is under threat. But if you begin to see yourself, not as a rock, but as the river itself, then these external shifts lose their power to break you. Our own modern understanding of the mind now reflects this ancient wisdom. The neural pathways of your brain are constantly being rewritten. You are not a final draft, you are a living, breathing process. This is not a cause for alarm. It is a source of profound freedom. Science itself tells the same story. Your body is in a constant state of exchange with the world around it. Distant stars are born and collapse. Absolutely nothing in this vast cosmos is standing still. So when you demand that your own small life, your role, your comforts, remain unchanged, you are fighting against the fundamental rhythm of existence. If everything is always flowing, why is it so difficult to find our balance within that flow? Because to understand this truth with the mind is not the same as being at peace with it in your heart. Most of us get the concept. Yet, when the river's current touches something we cherish, we brace ourselves. This is why the wise masters of the past did not simply point out the truth. They offered a way to walk it. A clear path does not just describe the friction of life, it shows a way to move through it. First, you must acknowledge the feeling. Then, you see what feeds it, this clinging, this misperception. Third, you recognize that a state of inner freedom is possible. And fourth, you walk the path. You train your mind to meet life's unfolding with greater clarity and less resistance. Have you ever felt this internal tug of war? This gap between knowing you should let go and the feeling of being unable to? If these words resonate with you, it's because you are on a path of awareness. You're not alone on this journey. By subscribing to this channel, you join a community of individuals all learning to navigate these same currents together. Consider sharing this so that others may also find a moment of clarity. So, the truth of life's ever-changing nature does not ask you to disengage from life. It asks you to engage with it more fully, more clearly. Not as a treasure to be locked away in a vault, but as a dynamic, living process to be met, moment by moment, with your full attention and your full heart. This shift in perspective alone can begin to calm the turbulent waters within. Because when you stop demanding that life be a stagnant pond, you are no longer shaken when it reveals itself as a powerful river. And from that space of clarity and lightness, new questions begin to surface. If clinging is the source of the struggle, how do you learn to loosen your grip? What would it feel like to live with presence instead of resistance? It is here that the true practice begins, not in abstract theory, but in your everyday. Loosening the grip, a path to navigating the river of worry. To loosen your grip does not mean you cease to care. This is a profound misunderstanding. In the context of wisdom, to let go means to stop clinging to a fixed outcome. It is not an invitation to withdraw, but a call to participate in life without the friction of resistance, to stop squeezing so tightly that you cause your own unease. Acceptance, from this perspective, is not passive resignation. It is the active courage to meet reality as it presents itself, rather than trying to bend it to your will. Consider a time when you have faced illness. Acceptance does not mean you abandon medicine. It means you take wise action for your health, while simultaneously dropping the heavy mental narrative of, "Why is this happening to me? This should not be." The physical discomfort is one layer. You often add a second layer through your mental resistance. As one wise teacher said, this is like holding a burning ember in your hand. The pain comes not only from the heat of the ember, but from your own refusal to open your hand and let it drop. The more you fight the unknown, the more power it has over you. But when you acknowledge the simple truth that this too shall pass, you shift from a state of panic to one of presence. Acceptance dispels the mental fog, allowing you to see what must be done, without being pulled apart by inner turmoil. This is the very essence of mindfulness. The mind's unease is almost always rooted in the future. What if? What happens when? What next? The practice of mindfulness gently guides your awareness back to the only time that is real, now. When you are truly mindful, you attend to what is actually occurring. The sensation of this breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the focus on this single task. Ancient traditions placed mindfulness at the heart of their teachings, for it is the gateway to a sane and balanced mind. The practice is simple. When you eat, simply taste. When you walk, simply feel your steps. When a thought of worry arises, what if I am not enough for tomorrow's challenge? You simply notice it for what it is. A thought, not a premonition, not an absolute truth, just a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. Modern neuroscience is now beginning to map what the sages intuited long ago. A mindful state reduces the reactive patterns in the brain's fear centers. It creates a space between a trigger and your response. But awareness alone is just the first step. You need insight. This is where contemplative practices deepen the journey. In quiet observation, what some call vipassana, you simply watch how sensations, thoughts, and feelings arise and then fade on their own. Sit in silence and notice your breath. An inhale is born, it lives, and it dies. A sound appears, it stays for a moment, and it dissolves. Through this direct experience, you stop merely understanding impermanence intellectually. You begin to feel its truth in your bones. And when you do, your instinctive clenching begins to soften. True wisdom, or pak, is simply seeing things as they are. It allows you to ask simple, but deeply cutting questions. Is losing my inner peace over this a worthy trade? Can my anxiety actually alter the future? The honest answer is almost always no. As a great sage once wrote, if a problem has a solution, then find it. If it has no solution, then worrying about it is of no use. Wisdom brings your focus back to the only circle you can truly influence, your own response, your core values, your presence. You cannot command the river to stop, but you can learn to steer your boat with skill and intention. Another profound path toward release is compassion. Unease often draws you into a very small, confined space of self, my future, my challenges, my fears. But when you look outward and truly see that every single being you meet is also navigating a sea of uncertainty, something inside you shifts. Tending to the well, being of another has a way of calming your own mind. you realize you are not alone in the storm. The masters of old encouraged loving kindness, or met, not just as a moral virtue, but as a practice of liberation. The more you orient yourself toward the well-being of others, the less space there is for fear to take root in your own heart. So, what does it truly look like to loosen your grip? It is not a dramatic, one-time event. It is a gentle, continuous practice. It is like holding a small bird in your hands, not so tightly that you crush it, but not so loosely that it flies away in panic. You engage with your work with full commitment, but you unchain your sense of self-worth from the final result. You love with your whole being, but you understand you do not own another person, nor can you stop the flow of time. You make plans, but you hold them lightly, and knowing that the winds may change. And when worry appears, as it surely will, you learn to pause, you take a breath, you remember. This feeling, too, is impermanent. And then you ask, what is the most helpful thing I can do right now? Sometimes the answer is an external action. Other times, it is simply a softening within. But every time you consciously release your grip, even slightly, you get a taste of freedom. Even those who have walked this path for a lifetime must practice this every single day. The goal is not a life without worry. It is a life where worry is not the driver of your choices. An ancient text says, "For one whose mind is not filled with grasping, there is no fear." The less you cling, the less you fear, and in the space that opens up, something deeper has a chance to grow. Peace, clarity, courage, embracing the flow, discovering strength and purpose in a changing world. You might assume that if nothing is permanent, then nothing holds any real weight or meaning. But ancient wisdom offers a transformative perspective. It is precisely because nothing lasts forever that every moment becomes profoundly meaningful. If life were an endless plane, you might wander it without paying much attention. But because you know your time here is finite, you are invited to be more present, more awake. This is the unexpected gift hidden within life's transient nature. It brings a sharp, beautiful clarity to your attention. A profound moment of connection is not diminished because it comes to an end. It is made sacred because it does. If a lotus flower were to bloom for all eternity, eventually you would walk past it without a second glance. It is the knowledge that its beauty is fleeting that causes you to pause, to truly see it, to breathe in its fragrance. The final words of the wise are seldom bleak, they are grounded. All things in creation are in a state of flux. Therefore, live your life with mindful attention. This was a reminder not to grasp at life, but to live it with a wide, open awareness. To see that this brief existence is worthy of your deepest care, not in spite of its impermanence, but precisely because of it. The fleeting nature of life does not drain it of meaning. It infuses it with urgency, clarity, and a unique kind of beauty. Every heartfelt conversation could be the last of its kind. Every simple, ordinary moment, a quiet meal, a shared smile, is rendered extraordinary by the understanding that it will never be repeated in exactly the same way. Even other paths of wisdom, from different corners of the world, echo this same deep truth. They remind you to remember your mortality, not to fill you with dread, but to inspire you to live with integrity. As one great teacher put it, what we call loss is simply change, and change is the delight of nature. When you stop viewing change as an enemy to be defeated, you can start to experience life as an unfolding dance, not a static object to be possessed. So, how do you walk in a world of constant movement without being consumed by anxiety? It is not by pretending that you won't feel pain, but by cultivating a quiet trust. A trust in your own capacity to meet each moment as it arises with a steady heart. Instead of constantly bracing for the next wave, you learn to move with it. You cease your attempts to command the ocean. Instead, you learn to navigate its waters. This kind of trust is not a blind hope. It is forged in the fire of lived experience. It comes from discovering, again and again, that you do not need conditions to be perfect in order to be whole. You start to trust the process itself. You understand that joy will visit, and so will sorrow, and that you have the capacity to remain centered through it all. You learn that to be flexible, like a river reed bending in the current, is a form of great strength. When you are no longer shattered, every time the landscape shifts, the grip of worry naturally begins to loosen. And what arises in the space that worry once occupied? Compassion, presence, a deeper sense of purpose. When your mental energy is no longer consumed by calculating every possible future, you are finally free to be here, fully present with the people right in front of you, fully engaged with the life you are actually living. And in a strange and beautiful way, this profound awareness of impermanence makes you more capable of love, not less. You recognize that every person you meet is also on this flowing river, facing their own currents of change, loss, and uncertainty. In that shared vulnerability, you find a deep connection. You stop striving for an image of perfection and instead begin investing in what is real: kindness, integrity, inner growth. One intentional step at a time, you move from a life of grasping to a life of contribution. Of course, this is not an idea you learn once. It is an insight that must be cultivated day after day. This is why many traditions suggest a simple morning reflection. I have this day. This day is a precious opportunity, not to be overly dramatic, but to be deeply honest. Because when you remember that life will not pause for you, small things begin to change. You find it in you to forgive more readily. You engage in fewer pointless arguments. You hold those you care about with more presence. You stop postponing the person you truly want to be. And when you face a choice, you can ask a powerful question. If I knew my journey had only 1 year left, would this matter? In the light of that question, the things that consume your energy often shrink to their proper size. Your mind gains clarity, and slowly, a new rhythm begins to guide your life. Not a frantic rush, but a gentle, focused urgency. The urgency to live well now. As an old text says, better to live for a single day and see the arising and passing of all things than to live for 100 years and never witness it. To truly see the nature of flow is to awaken. And in that awakening, your inner struggle begins to subside, not because life stops changing, but because you are no longer at war with change. So, why do we hold on so tightly when life itself is a flowing river? The wisdom of the ages offers a simple, yet profound answer. You don't have to. Worry is not a permanent sentence. It is a mental habit. And like any habit, it can be seen, it can be understood, and it can be gently released. Life's unfolding nature is not here to cause you pain. It is here to guide you toward what is truly essential. It is a constant reminder: connect deeply, live authentically, and release with grace when the time comes. No, you cannot hold on to any single moment, but you can be fully present for it. And when you are, something fundamental shifts within you. The fear recedes. The mind becomes clear, and in its place, you discover a quiet, unshakable strength. A peace that no amount of change can ever take from you. If you feel this path is one you wish to walk with more intention, consider this an invitation. Your subscription is more than a click. It is a commitment to your own growth, a step toward meeting your life with more awareness and less resistance. Join us on this journey, and perhaps share this reflection with one person who might need to hear it today.